Tonight, Dr. John Mphaphuli returns. He's the CEO of SO School of Millionaires and an expert in personal finance. Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. Here's your host, Chim Onyebilanma.
Hi there, welcome to this week's episode of your show. I'm Chim Onyebilanma, your host. First stop is Sudan. You know, last April, Omar al-Bashir, the dictator of Sudan, was ousted.
President Omar al-Bashir has been removed from power. The country's defense minister made the announcement following weeks of protests across Sudan. He says the country's government has been dissolved and consultations are underway to form a transitional council to run the country, at least for now.
Bashir's reign for the past 30 years has been particularly harsh, with allegations of genocide in Darfur and the wars in South Sudan. Literally millions of people have died because of this one man. But the economic hardship of the people was the reason for this revolt. I was surprised, even though delighted, by the audacity of the protesters for two reasons. First, this is a message to oppressive leaders all around Africa that there's a limit to people's endurance. If our leaders do not do something quickly about the level of poverty and massive youth unemployment in some of our countries, a revolt may soon come. This was what Archbishop Duncan Williams of Ghana was recently talking about in an interview he granted.
There is a wind coming.
Wow.
And it's not 2019. It will begin after 2020 going.
After 2020, there's a wind coming.
There's a wind coming. Mm-hmm. The Arab uprising is coming.
Here.
It's coming. It's coming.
By the youth.
It's coming not just to Ghana, West Africa, all over, if we don't do something. Because you see, look at a lot of these youths. They've graduated from school. They are home, no job. Some of them, you go to these car washing places, you see 10 young men who have graduated from university washing one car. And then they have to wait for some hours before another car comes. Some of them live in these kiosks. You know, we have kiosk estates these days.
Yeah.
Opposite the wealthy areas.
Yeah.
And they know the people who live in the community. They went to school, some of their kids. Some of them know the families. They have nothing. Suddenly they go into politics and they have everything. And they drive the best, they fly the best. Their children go to school abroad and everything. And they're sitting down there looking at all of you and saying, hey, wow, this thing is interesting. After a while, if we don't give them hope, that's why I'm going back to the schools.
Speak to them.
And I'm engaging the youth again. Because if we don't give them hope and a sense of direction, the most dangerous thing in life is to fight somebody who has nothing to lose.
Now, there needs to be a shift, that is clear. The second reason I was delighted for al-Bashir's fall is because of the level of persecution he melted out to the church. There are 2 million Christians living in Sudan. This is less than 5% of the total population of 41.5 million people. Al-Bashir was the face of a strong Islamist anti-Christian regime that systematically targeted churches and Christians for persecution and were shutting down places of worship. Even though it's still unclear what the future government in Khartoum will look like, the church there is breathing a sigh of relief for now. Please pray that God will bring us a season of change that will bring greater freedom, protect Christians, and allow for the gospel of Jesus to spread far and wide in this majority Muslim country. And if you're interested in volunteering to serve with our teams there, please contact us today. Now, my dear friend, the beloved singer Wale Adenuga is putting together the second edition of what he calls the Green Worship Concert. If you're in Lagos next week, you don't want to miss this. The admission is free. Take a look.
Are you ready? It's the second edition of Green Worship, featuring Nathaniel Bassi, Frank Edwards, Wale Adenuga, Monique, Solomon Lange, Peter, Victoria Orense, Olufumi, Iben, Elijah Oyelade, Tolu Odukoye Jogun, Onos, Olumide, Nosa. Green Worship, the 5th of June 2019 at the Fountain of Life Church, Lagos, Nigeria. Doors open at 3:30 p.m. This event is free. Register at www.greenworship.org.
Wow, great. Now, let's go to my interview with Dr. John. We knew we had to bring him back after what happened the last time he was here. This one now is very loaded. Don't go away, please. Thank you for that warm welcome. And like I said in the start, my guest today is Dr. John Mphaphuli, and he is here once again to continue our conversation on personal finance. He's the managing director for SA School of Millionaires, and he was here a while back, and we talked about personal finance. Dr. John, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chim, and thanks to the viewers.
You know, when we finished the last time, I said to myself, we've got to have a second conversation, hence this one. And what is this whole thing called the Genesis Principle? Where does it come from?
The Genesis Principles, Chim, are more to say, now I understand I've messed up with my finances, I'm praying and Now, how do I start? What are the things that I need to do? Now, this is the how-to of accumulating wealth.
Yeah, of that middle place.
Yep.
So that's what the Genesis Principle. How did you come about it?
This is, when I was on my personal journeys to say, you know what, I'm preaching, I'm praying, I'm loving God, but I don't have money. Now, what do? I really started searching, and I went back to Genesis, and you know the book of Genesis is the book of beginning.
Of beginnings.
Then I knew that I had to go to the beginning of my finances. If it comes to being saved, I'm going to heaven, but finances I don't have, and finances I need. Where do I start? I thought, let me go to the book of Genesis and see what does it say.
The Genesis Principle. Now, unpack it a bit for us. You said there are 3 key things. What are those 3 key things that are contained in this Genesis Principle?
The 3 keys are, number 1 is how to make money.
Okay.
That will be based on verse number 1 of Genesis chapter 1.
Okay.
Number 2 will be, if I make money, how do I keep the money that I've made?
Okay.
That will be Genesis chapter 1 verse 6. Okay. Number 3 will be, how do I then grow the money that I have made and I've kept? How do I grow it? Because I have nothing to keep unless I make, and I have nothing to grow unless I keep.
Okay, so those are the 3 things. How do I make it? How do I keep it so that it doesn't run away? And how do I grow it so that it doesn't remain the same?
Yep.
Now, let's start with the first one. You said it comes from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Verse 1.
Now, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, God, who existed before the beginning, came to a place to say, now this time I'm going to call it the beginning, and I'm going to do action of creating. Now, if people are battling financially, they need to know, whether you've been working for 10 years or 20 years, you need to come to a place where you say, now this is going to be my beginning of creating wealth. You have been working for many years. Now, God created, which means God produced out of nothing. We do not produce out of nothing. What do? We make, because God has already provided everything we need. In other words, making is producing something out of something.
Yeah.
Creating is producing something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Now we make. Now to make here would mean, Kim, I say to people who are working and they're having whatever income, I always say to them, if you are to create wealth or to make wealth, always consider your salary as the first stepping stone.
Okay.
I don't like this thing of, people talking about, if ever you want to start something or you want to make business, you just start by going to borrow money. I'm not anti-borrowing money, but I'm saying you already have
something.
In countries like South Africa and Australia and others, you will find that people are even given grant or government pension, and some of us are working. That little money that you are having, you must see that as your first stepping stone. That's when you will make. Now, people always think, I don't have enough money because they want that which they don't have.
And they're not looking at what they have.
No, they don't look at what they have. If only I can earn like what, Chim is earning. If only I can earn like so and so. If that little that you have, I have challenged people to say, Chim, even if I can be given 10 cleaners, 10 clerks, I'm talking of people
on the lower level of
on the low spectrum. Exactly. Those people, I can turn them into millionaires. And this is the journey that I've walked. So you start with what you have. Don't think of what you don't have. If you can manage your 100 rands or $100 or 100 naira or whatever, even if you are given 10,000, you are not going to be able to manage it, because the principles of managing finances for success do not change, only the amount does.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. So the first thing is to take what is in your hand as a starting point.
As the starting point.
And then
now to make money will simply mean, how do you increase that which you have? The second principle, which is found in verse number 6, which is how to make. And I want the viewers
is that how to keep now?
How to keep, I'm sorry.
The first one is how to make.
How to make. The second one is how to keep. Now, I want the viewers to really know this. I didn't say how to save. I said how to keep. And I know the word save is very popular. But you see, the word save is a bit tricky, and it has discouraged so many people. Because if we were to be real, Chim, we are no longer in the economy of money. We are in the economy of currency.
Yeah.
Now,
I would love you to explain that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, you explain to me why saving is not the issue and why we're in the economy of currency. The viewers, we're talking to Dr. John Mphaphuli, and he's the author of the 7 opposite directions between that differentiates, separates the rich and the poor. And you can get it on the link on the screen. We'll be back right now. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Don't go away. We want to hear from you. Tell us someone you want to see on the show, somebody from your country or elsewhere you want me to interview. Send us your choice. We'll try our best to get the person on this show. Yeah, welcome back there, viewers and audience in the studio. We're talking to John Mphaphuli, and he's the author of the 7 opposite directions that separates the rich from the poor. And he is passionate about seeing all Africans able to prosper in the area of personal finance. You were talking about the fact that we've moved away from just
saving
to keeping, and that you don't want to talk about saving, you want to talk about keeping. Tell me the difference.
The difference is, Kim, we are no longer in the economy of money. We are in the economy of finances. When you read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible speaks about money. There's nowhere where the Bible speaks about naira or dollars or rands or kwacha or metikash, because all those things I've just mentioned now, those are currencies created by man.
Yeah.
But God created money. And what is true money? True money will be your diamond, your gold, your silver, your platinum, and you can go on and on.
True wealth,
but yeah, those are true wealth. Now, you can save a piece of gold. And when you take it out, that piece of gold will be worth more than
what it was before.
But currency, if you take, let's use South African rands. If you take 10,000 rand and you save it for the next 10 years, when you get your 10,000 rand, it's no longer going to buy what it could have bought 10 years ago because of inflation, which we're not going to go into. So I challenge my delegates in my workshops to say, 10,000 rand, if you save it for the next 10 years, when you get your 10,000 rand, it's no longer going to buy what it could have bought 10 years ago because of inflation, which we're not going to go into. So I challenge my delegates in my workshops to say, 10,000 rand, if you save it for the next 10 years, when you get your 10,000 rand, it's no longer going to buy what it could have bought 10 years ago because of inflation, which we're not going to go into. So get out of the mindset of saving into the mindset of keeping. Now, in Genesis chapter 6, God creates the heavens and the earth in verse 1. In verse number 2, the Bible tells us it's like God, after creating, he came back to what he has created.
Yeah.
Now he brings order.
Yeah.
Now, in the language of money, this will be investing.
Yeah.
Investing, it means you move your money from there to there to there, because now, once you have made money, you must learn to keep. Now, to keep, you have to do this, which is very important. You, just like God in Genesis, God separated the water. The water above it's called sky. The water below is seas. Once you have made money, you get your salary or your payout, whatever. Separate your money into two. You will see the Bible says God separated the waters. Now, separate your money, so to say. Now, it means that one salary must be separated in two, above and below. Now, the portion below, it's what you live on. I call this lifestyle money. This is what you spend. The portion above, to maintain yourself. The portion above, in the context of money, we call this investment money. Now, many people who deal with personal finance and people who are rich, who actually, I'm not talking about people that just got tenders, I'm talking of people who created their wealth. They will tell you, if they earn, and remember, I'm not talking about 10%, I'm talking about the 90%. If they earn, let's say 10,000 rand, they will make sure that the moment they get their money, they must separate it before they spend it. At least the 10% or more of money, you put it aside and you live on the 90%. It is the 10% of the total amount.
Okay.
You have taken out your tithe. Let's say your tithe, it's 1,000 rand out of 10,000.
Okay.
Now you take another 1,000.
Out of the remaining 9,000.
Yes.
So it's the 10%, another 10%.
Another 10%.
So you put that aside for investment.
Yes, but it cannot be limited to only 10%, depending on how old you are and how fast you want to accumulate your wealth. You can go 20, you can go 25, you can go 30, it's up to you. Now, that money, we call it investment money. That which is remaining, it's what you're going to live on. In other words, you keep before you spend. You don't keep after you have spent. That's totally wrong.
The shift now should be keep before you spend, because what we do is wait and see if there's anything left. Then I can think of.
And
keeping.
Is there anything left?
There's never anything
It is
left.
never anything. So that you keep, we call it investment money. Now, this investment money, you don't use it for Christmas. You don't use it to go and buy goods on Black Friday. You don't use it to pay for school fees for your children. You don't use this to fix your car. The question will be, when do you ever use this? The only time you use this 10% that you are putting aside or more, it's when you are going to buy your first asset. You don't use it for any other reasons. The moment you take it for any other, you know, with black people, I don't know in other countries, but in South Africa, we are so obsessed with funerals. You will blow every money you have for, you know,
like that in many other parts of Africa too.
You know, to buy the casket and marquee tent and food.
Make it a big day.
You don't use that money for that.
Funeral.
You use it to buy your first asset. So hence the word keep, because saving, it's you are putting your money away for, you know, rainy season, which you don't know when it is coming. Keeping means you start at the end in your mind. You say, what do I want to do? For an example, I always say, I want to accumulate my wealth by owning a property. Every time I'm putting money away is because there's another piece of property I want to acquire. So you don't put money away without knowing what you want to do with it. So we'll explain that at the workshop. So that is what we do.
And then we go to number 3. We go to
number 3. Number 3 is how to grow your money. You see, after you have made, you must learn to keep. After you have kept that which you have kept, now you must grow. How do you grow your money? In verse number 11, the Bible, you know, God says, let the land produce. Now you buy things that will grow and reproduce themselves. If we had enough time, we'll explain this. Look, Chim, if you and I take our first salary. Let's say we earn 5,000 each. I take my salary, I go and buy a nice tablet like this one. You take your first, your first salary, you go and buy 5 goats. We don't have enough time to do multiplication. At the end of 2 years, the cell phone, it's worthless.
You need a new one.
You need a new one. But you are 5,000. If you had bought 5 goats, at the end of 2 years, you'll be having plus minus 30 goats if things goes well. Now, you take the money that you have kept to buy things that grow.
That will multiply.
Yes. I don't like this thing that, people will say, no, I kept my money and at the end of the year, I bought a big fridge. My question is your fridge going to produce itself?
It's going to just be on its own.
From the day you buy it, whether you buy it cash on credit, is growing old. At the end of 2 years, there are new refrigerations.
Yeah,
it's
already behind.
It's no longer white, it's gray. It's no longer gray, it's red now. Now, if you buy 5 goats, they will reproduce themselves. At the end of 2 years, with 30 goats, it means you have got plus minus 30,000. You can sell the first lot, and you are now going to start with 25. If you started with 5 and ended with 30, if you start with 25, how many are you going to have at the end of 2 years? You see, now, what do people do? They rush to buy a new fridge. They rush to buy new sofas. Those things are not your assets. They are your biggest liabilities. No matter how nice these sofas are and this fridge that you are pressing to get ice tubes and what. Listen, it's gonna, now you need to change them.
You need to repair them. You need to keep
but
them
you don't
up.
have assets.
Yeah.
So few assets you can buy that we'll have time to discuss at the workshop. It's the first thing will be buy things like land.
Yeah.
Buy buildings or develop buildings. Buy livestock. And we can go on. But those are the kind of things that you read through the Bible. Go and visit the richest people. They will tell you they own land, they've got buildings, they've got livestock. That is where Africa has the advantage. The climate favors us. This is the rich people. Why don't people ask themselves, every time there is a new mall in Durban or new mall in Joburg, people don't even ask who owns the mall. The only thing they celebrate, we have got the biggest mall in Joburg. And who owns the mall? All what you are doing, you're taking, the richest people are owning buildings, they're owning the malls.
You're going to give them more money.
And I can say to the viewers, this is where I invest my money. Yeah. I invest on land, I invest on buildings, I invest on livestock, I invest on writing books. I own all those things. I've got those things.
Yeah, and they keep multiplying. Thank you so much. That is so good. Does anybody want to ask a question?
Dr. Mphaphuli, I want to find out, what if people say, look, I don't like livestock. I don't want to look after livestock. I don't want to, the headache of the buildings and all that. Then how else can they invest their money?
I can hear where the question is leading me to, because people want to only invest on what we call sophisticated investments.
Yeah.
In other words, people want to put their money somewhere and go and sit
down.
But can I say...
They don't want something that would trouble them.
Yeah, but can I say, I do not discourage such kind of investments. The biggest challenge for me is I don't want to put my money somewhere where I have no total control.
And where you don't understand.
I just put it there, I sit aside. I want to touch my money. I want to see my money. And I'm saying the things that I was saying here are right in the Bible. And can I say, even a grandmother in Manguzi, in the rural areas of KwaZulu-Natal, in Venda, you go to places like Njelele, this is total. To be honest with you, I like this all others, but I'm saying I would encourage people to say, why don't you start, and let's talk, in the church context, why don't you start about these ones that whenever you read of David, you read of Solomon,
they're low-hanging fruits. They're low-hanging fruits. You can just pluck them all. I hear you. Now we have to land it here, and I'll take a last word from you. Thank you for the answer you provided. We've been talking to Dr. John Mphaphuli. He's the author of the 7 opposite directions that separates the rich from the poor. You see on your screen there the place to go to get one of this book, whether on the electronic format or the proper soft copy. We will go to your last word. What will be your last word on this issue as you speak to all the believers out there in Africa? What will be your last word? What burns in your heart?
You know, the last word I will say, Romans chapter 2, verse 12, Romans chapter 12, verse 2, talks about do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. If we are to beat poverty in Africa, we must stop doing what we have been doing all these years. That did not help us. Now, do not conform any longer, but be transformed. In other words, we must start doing something different. If every Christmas I was buying new clothes for kids and new TV, and I continue doing that, I'm not going to change. There must be a mind shift here to say, having the biggest TV screen does not make me rich, it makes me look rich. Hey, you know, driving the most expensive car in town does not make me rich, it makes me look like I am.
Rich.
And it's many of us know that we are pretending we're driving cars that we cannot even put on aircon because it chows too much petrol. And so all what I'm saying is, do not conform. Stop doing the things you have been doing and start doing new things. In other words, I'm saying stop buying wrong things at the wrong time with wrong money. What is wrong money? Salary is not meant to buy luxury. Salary is to buy assets to create wealth.
Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. You've left us with a challenge. Whatever you have in your hand in the beginning is not meant to buy luxury, it's meant to buy assets so as to create wealth, which can ultimately take you to luxury. And of course, God calls us to take all we have as stewards for him, and so that we can help many more people. Thank you so much, Dr. John. We'll be rounding up here. And remember, you can have Dr. John come over to your church, to your country, to your organization to share in depth on some of these things which God has shown him and he has worked out in his own particular journey. This is where we'll be landing this segment of the show. Thank you so much, Dr. John, for your input and your wisdom. And I'll come back later and round up. Thank you, audience. God bless you. Welcome back. Here is my word as I round up for this week. It's titled Bread of Life. You see, a while back, I was touched by the Lord Jesus' statement in John 6:48-49, where he said, "Yes, I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate manna in the wilderness, but they all died." Jesus was referring to the ancestors of the Israelites under Moses, who experienced miraculous provisions of manna and still died both spiritually and physically. You see, we can be blessed materially by God and yet die spiritually. The life of a man is not measured by the abundance of things that he has. It's not even measured by those things that are gifts from God. You see, the manna was a first-class miracle, food dropping from heaven, yet it was powerless to give life. We must not measure our spiritual aliveness by the number of miracles or by God's provision that we are seeing. We must not measure it by how much breakthrough or God-sent miracles that we are getting in our lives or ministry. We must measure it only by how much we are alive to God in our inner man, how much we are hungering for his likeness, and how much we are changing into that likeness. You see, Jesus went on to say here that if anyone eats of this bread, referring to himself, he will live forever. That's verse 51. Jesus is the source of true life. It is in coming to him that we are fed, and it is in believing in him that we drink. We must eat of him to live. And some of you have tasted him already, and you are alive today. You are born again. Your old life is passed away. Yet it's not a once-for-all experience. This eating and drinking of Jesus, we need to form the habit, the discipline of spending quality time daily to eat of his word and drink in his life through communion. Now, if you're yet to give your life to Christ, I want to give you this opportunity to do so as we round up. Please pray this prayer with me. Say, Lord Jesus, I'm tired of my sin. I don't want to continue in it anymore. I believe you died for me and rose again for my sin. Please come into my life today and give me a new heart. In Jesus' name. Now, if you've prayed that prayer with all your heart, something new has started with you. I would like you to contact us. We have an ebook, a free ebook we'd like to send you to help you in your journey with the Lord. Now, this is where we round up this week. Thank you for joining us this week. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Next week, we go to Ghana.
But we are making some great successes. Monies are being recovered. I know of the Abacha loot that is now coming back to Africa. We might not be getting the interest, but the initial monies that left the continent is coming back. These are progress that we see in the anti-corruption fight. They never used to be. In the past, we could talk about corruption in Ghana, for instance. No.
Was it an issue? Nobody cared?
No, nobody cared. And actually, when you talk about it, it's a big issue. You can actually be harmed.
Linda Ofori-Kwafo, the anti-corruption watchdog of Ghana, is my guest next week on Chips Talk Africa.
This program is made possible by the generous financial support of believers just like you, who share our heart to equip the African Church to engage the issues facing our continent. Your financial support will help us continue this important work. If you feel led to give to this ministry, please visit our website today.